28-year-old Bryan Kohberger was arraigned on 4 counts of first-degree murder in the Latah County Courthouse in Moscow this morning.
His appearance came hours after the probable cause affidavit was released. That affidavit shed new light on what happened inside the house where the students were stabbed to death and what led police to Kohberger's arrest.
Our Morgan Romero is live in Moscow today. She's been covering all of these latest developments for us. And Morgan, what can you tell us? I mean, so much new information came out today.
So much new information came out, Doug. That's exactly right. We expected that probable cause affidavit to be unsealed right around the time of his initial appearance, and that's exactly what happened. We had less than an hour to go through it, 19 pages long, 1 page redacted. So we had 18 pages. It was super, super detailed. And what that probable cause affidavit, that PCA said, is that investigators were able to match Bryan Kohberger with the crime scene through DNA, video surveillance of his car, and cell phone records. As you said, he had his first court appearance today in Latah County in this building behind me in a very small courtroom, which only fit about 75 people. He was read the charges against him, and he was pretty emotionless, as our Alexandra Duggan reports, since she was inside that courtroom. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. He's also accused of unlawfully entering the King Road home with the intent to commit murder. The judge ordered no bail as he continues to sit here at the Latah County Jail. He was also issued a no-contact order for the victims' families. He could face the death penalty or life in prison if found guilty. He was appointed a public defender, and his next hearing is set for January 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's going to be a status hearing, and then they'll set the preliminary hearing or probable cause hearing at that time. I saw some family members of the students who were killed joining the hearing virtually this morning from the overflow room, but Kaylee Gonsalves' family, one of the victims, was in the courtroom. Their attorney gave a short statement right after the hearing outside the courthouse.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul. And that's the statement for the media today. Thank you.
And if you remember, a gag order was issued in this case for attorneys and law enforcement with any information. So we haven't been able to get any other sound from anybody else here at the courthouse today. Again, that probable cause affidavit unsealed, really shedding a lot more light on what happened. For the first time, we're learning the details of this case. Records show that law enforcement was really keeping their eyes on Bryan Kohberger very early on, just about 2 weeks after the murders. We found through that PCA that investigators say Xana and Ethan were found on the 2nd floor of the home. Maddie and Kaylee were found in a bed together on the 3rd floor. Officers noticed a tan leather knife sheath on the bed next to Maddie. A sheath is a cover for the blade of a knife. They figured out it was a K-bar knife with a Marine Corps insignia on it. Then the Idaho State Lab found a single source of male DNA on the button of that sheath, which they called the suspect profile. They then compared that DNA, the suspect profile, to trash that they took from the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania on December 27th, as Kohberger is from Pennsylvania. That DNA matched the DNA of the suspect's father almost 100%. Investigators interviewed 2 roommates who were home at the time of the murders, and those roommates said everyone was at the King Road house at 2 a.m. in their rooms by 4 a.m., except for Xana Kernodle, one of the victims, who got a DoorDash order delivered at 4 a.m. One roommate says she was woken up around 4 a.m. by noise on the 3rd floor above her. She said it sounded like Kaylee was playing with her dog. Officers confirming that Kaylee's dog was there at the time of the crime and was heard barking several times on security footage from a neighboring home. Then one of the surviving roommates heard one of her roommates say, "There's someone here." Investigators believe this could have been Xana because she was likely awake and on TikTok at the time. The roommate says she opened her door when she heard crying coming from Xana's room, and she heard a man say, quote, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." The roommate says she opened her door again and saw a person in black wearing a mask covering their mouth and nose. She described him as tall, not muscular, but with an athletic build and with bushy eyebrows. He walked past her, and she stood in what she described as a frozen shock phase. He walked to the back sliding door. She locked herself in her room, and investigators believe he did leave the scene. Investigators believe, after all the evidence and information, the homicides happened between 4 and 4:25 a.m. on November 13th. 911 was not called until around noon from one of the roommates' phones inside the home. Investigators have reviewed several surveillance videos. Video from the area showed a white Hyundai Elantra seen near the crime scene multiple times around the time of the murders. Investigators believe it was heading toward Pullman after the murders. Video from Wazoo showed what appeared to be the Elantra on campus before and after the murders happened. Moscow PD asked other law enforcement to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in that area on November 25th, just 12 days after the murders. Then, on November 29th, Washington State University police learned Bryan Kohberger owned a white Hyundai Elantra. Again, they had their sights on him early on in this investigation. A physical description from Kohberger's driver's license matched the one that the roommate gave police. Kohberger, we know, is a PhD student studying criminology at Wazoo. Investigators also got search warrants for cell phone records. They found his phone didn't ping towers near the King Road house. Investigators believe he turned his phone off, but then it pinged on its way back to Moscow after the murders. Those phone records also match the movements of the Hyundai Elantra. An officer says he later learned through cell phone records from June to December that Kohberger had been by the King Road home. This is really harrowing. At least 12 times prior to the murders, most around the evening time or early morning hours. The probable cause affidavit, by the way, did not say anything about whether police have found a murder weapon. As I mentioned earlier, our Alexandra Duggan was inside the courtroom as I was in the overflow room. And Alex, you saw him face to face, Kohberger, for the first time, the man accused of murdering these 4 University of Idaho students. We saw him getting off the plane yesterday, but what was his body language inside the courtroom?
Morgan, he really had no emotion. I noticed he did tense his jaw a little bit when the judge was reading the charges against him. He also didn't look at the family, the Gonsalves family, who was in the front row. The family showed emotion when he walked into the courtroom, but he did not. He was sitting there in an orange jumpsuit. The judge actually said the charges against him were malicious and premeditated, and it was very emotional and very tense within the courtroom. But like I said before, we couldn't see much emotion coming from Kohberger, and he was taken out pretty quick.
It was a very short hearing, as are most initial appearances, but did his public defender, did he say anything else?
His public defender did say that his family stands behind him.
Okay, okay, and they came from Pennsylvania. Did you see them in the courtroom?
No.
Okay. All right. Of course, Alex, we thank you for your reporting. She has a lot more stories on our website right now, KTVB.com. She also covered yesterday the fact that Kohberger changed his driver's license and his plate numbers from Pennsylvania to Washington not long after the murders. You can read that story again on our website, KTVB.com. But Doug, we also gleaned a little bit more information about Kohberger's education from the PCA today, as we've been reporting. And as I just said, he was a criminology PhD student at Wazoo, but he also applied, interestingly, for an internship at the Pullman Police Department, according to police. And unknown, obviously, he likely did not get that internship because he applied back in the fall. But he said he wanted to help rural law enforcement departments with trying to help better forensics and technology. And he also wrote on Reddit, police say, we've seen this post circulating as well. He wrote on Reddit, posting a survey asking for participants to give some information about any emotions that they might have while committing a crime. So there's a lot more about his background that we still have yet to learn as well, Doug.
And Morgan, a lot came out obviously in the probable cause affidavit, but did you hear anything in court today or from that document about his possible connection to the victims or a possible motive?
No, we did not hear anything about any connections or possible motive to the victims. That, of course, is a lingering question and what we've been wanting to know this entire time since day one when police said that this was targeted, this attack was targeted. We've always thought maybe there was a connection between the suspect or suspects and the victims, but no, unfortunately, we did not learn that through the PCA, but we will, of course, hear that if and how he was connected to the victims as this case moves forward.
Possibly in the preliminary hearing, but he might waive that as well. Morgan, thank you so much. We'll see you at 4:30.